At the core of everything Disney does lies the desire to entertain, and their live-action Snow White was supposed to be no exception. But when AMC pulled the film from theaters, it sent shockwaves through the industry. Despite the star power of Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, the movie's performance plummeted, so dramatically in fact, that AMC had no choice but to pull it from the big screen. But what exactly went wrong? The film's sales took a nosedive so fast that AMC had to act. Even Disney's world-renowned marketing couldn't rescue a project plagued by controversies from the very beginning. Behind-the-scenes drama, public feuds, and a growing fan backlash transformed the movie's promise of a fresh take into an empty promise. Some pointed to Disney's repeated attempts to modernize its classics as a key factor. Others suggested Zegler's outspoken views were a major contributor to the film's downfall. In a memorable podcast monologue, Joe Rogan broke down how the movie's problems were more than just box office numbers. They were a cultural moment in the making. Even Disney's usual advantages, brand loyalty and star power, weren't enough to save it. As the film's plot changes and Zegler's controversial comments turned fans away, it became crystal clear. Disney's attempt to reinvent Snow White had gone too far. What was meant to be a new version of a beloved classic quickly turned into a movie no one was willing to support. A stark warning to Hollywood about the dangers of alienating your audience. As the release date drew nearer, fury erupted on social media. Far from being celebrated as a fresh take on the iconic story, Rachel Zegler became the face of everything wrong with the adaptation. Disney scrambled to manage the fallout, sending her on talk shows in a desperate attempt to repair the film's image. But Zegler, fiercely independent, was not interested in towing the company line. She openly expressed her personal views, refusing to bow to Disney's corporate agenda. While some fans admired her boldness, others felt her comments were patronizing to those who loved the original film. The tension between an outspoken star and a giant studio quickly overshadowed any discussion about the film's actual content. Behind-the-scenes rumors only added fuel to the fire, with industry insiders beginning to question whether Disney's crisis management was slipping. Then came The View. Disney had carefully chosen this platform to steer the PR crisis, but things didn't go as planned. Zegler, refusing to play by the script, steered the conversation toward political topics, completely derailing the studio's talking points. The result? An even deeper controversy. What followed was nothing short of chaos. Disney producers, under immense pressure, tried to get Zegler back on message, but her comments about the outdated themes of the original story only stoked the flames of fan outrage. The live broadcast spiraled out of control, and producers scrambled unsuccessfully to cut her off. The segment ended abruptly, and within moments, viral clips were circulating across social media. The result? A media frenzy that eclipsed any conversation about the film itself. In the aftermath of the Snow White fiasco, Disney's carefully controlled narrative began to unravel. The clash between Rachel Zegler and the studio quickly became the main story, with critics seeing her as too rebellious for the project, while her supporters hailed her for speaking her truth. Meanwhile, co-star Gal Gadot, once viewed as the film's steadying presence, became an afterthought, as rumors of tension between the two actresses began to swirl. The fan backlash was swift and unforgiving. Hashtags like "Not My Snow White" took over social media, and the film's opening weekend numbers were a clear reflection of the public's negative sentiment. Despite a massive marketing push, the movie failed to meet expectations, with theaters like AMC seeing half-empty auditoriums. As sales continued to plummet, AMC made a decision that would shock the industry. They pulled the film entirely from theaters. This move was a bombshell. For AMC, keeping the film in theaters was simply a financial burden, and quietly removing it seemed like the only viable option. Joe Rogan weighed in, calling this a watershed moment, proof that even with Disney's star power and sky-high budgets, nothing is guaranteed when audiences turn against you. The explosion on The View sealed the film's fate, shattering any illusion of a smooth publicity rollout. What was supposed to be a carefully managed media tour instead exposed a production on the verge of collapse. Disney typically controls every narrative, every talking point during such interviews. But Zegler's unscripted remarks on live TV revealed just how fragile that control can be. Once she voiced her personal views, producers were powerless to stop the chaos, and within minutes, the fallout began to spiral out of control. Rather than tamping down the controversy, Disney's attempts at damage control only made things worse. The studio's reliance on corporate PR over genuine dialogue became painfully apparent. Fans who might have been passively following the story became gripped by the spectacle, and Disney's leadership, especially Bob Iger, came under intense scrutiny. Returning to the company during such a turbulent time, Iger found himself inheriting a slew of remakes, some successful, some not. But Snow White's disaster exposed the limits of relying solely on brand recognition. This debacle was a wake-up call for Disney. Audiences will reject even the most beloved classics if they feel disrespected or misrepresented. The situation also revealed cracks in Disney's once seamless PR machine, a machine typically known for its ability to unite corporate offices, marketing, and stars under one cohesive narrative. In the case of Snow White, that synergy completely collapsed. Instead of a unified front, confusion and internal discord became the dominant story. Even within Disney's own ranks, criticism of Zegler emerged, including from a producer's son, who publicly denounced her outspokenness. This added to the growing sense of fragmentation within the company. Zegler, however, saw the backlash as an attempt to scapegoat her, and some of her supporters agreed, pointing out that deeper issues with the adaptation itself were being ignored. Regardless of the perspective, the damage was undeniable. AMC's decision to pull Snow White from theaters was a clear message. Even the biggest studios can't survive when controversy eclipses the film's core. The symbolic weight of AMC's decision was massive. Disney's live-action remakes typically run in theaters for weeks, but the swift removal of Snow White was a powerful reminder of one hard truth. When a film is tainted by scandal, it can be written off completely. Smaller chains had already pulled the film, but AMC's move made it official, sending shockwaves through the industry. Joe Rogan pointed out something crucial. In the past, Disney could have quietly absorbed the flop of Snow White through home video or international sales. But today's media landscape is a different beast. Social media outrage and the 24/7 news cycle ensured that the disaster was unavoidable. The film quickly became synonymous with corporate mismanagement, leaving no room for Disney's usual magic or storytelling to shine. In many ways, the meltdown was the final nail in the coffin. Speculation around Snow White's failure escalated, with some unfairly blaming Rachel Zegler, while others recognized that the adaptation had strayed too far from the original. The disastrous The View appearance became forever linked to the film's downfall, cementing it as a pivotal moment in its collapse. Rogan suggested that Disney would likely impose stricter guidelines on future stars, attempting to balance creative freedom with brand integrity, but he warned that overcorrecting could backfire. If stars are too scripted, audiences would likely sense the inauthenticity, leading to a new kind of backlash. Ironically, the meltdown highlighted the power of sincerity, or at least the appearance of it. Zegler's outburst was genuine, but it wasn't what the audience wanted to hear. After the incident, speculation swirled about whether Disney would fast-track the film's release to its streaming platform to cut its losses. But moving a high-profile film to streaming too quickly might reinforce the idea that it was a failure from the start. With AMC and other theaters pulling the film, Disney had little choice but to consider this option. Rogan predicted that the fallout from the meltdown would haunt both Disney and Zegler for some time. Future roles for Zegler would likely be scrutinized for any signs that she might repeat her outspoken behavior, while Disney would face tough questions about its approach to remaking its classics. The meltdown became a goldmine for late-night jokes and viral memes. Social media erupted with images of empty AMC theaters and sarcastic captions like, "The day Snow White died." Disney's once immaculate image was seriously tarnished. The fiasco became a symbol of growing frustration with corporate overreach as audiences, tired of being pandered to, watched the entire debacle unfold. Audiences are open to fresh takes on classics, if they feel respectful. But when an adaptation is seen as a hollow cash grab, disrespecting its source material, backlash is swift. Zegler's explosive remarks on live TV ensured that Snow White would never recover from the fallout. No PR campaign could reframe the situation. The moment AMC, one of the most influential theater chains in the country, made the unprecedented decision to pull the film, it marked the film's official burial. What started as a minor PR misstep spiraled into a full-blown spectacle, making the Snow White adaptation not just an awkward moment on daytime TV, but the defining event of its release. The decision to pull the movie entirely ensured that this Snow White would be remembered for all the wrong reasons. Instead of being known for its creative vision or fresh take, it became synonymous with the meltdown that destroyed its credibility. The film's fate was sealed when AMC, in a bold move, removed it from screens altogether, sending a clear message that it was a box office disaster. This debacle wasn't just a misstep for Disney, it was a pivotal moment for the entire film industry. The fallout will impact how studios handle their stars, marketing strategies, and cherished properties moving forward. Hollywood will never forget how a single meltdown, fueled by poor management, miscommunication, and a lack of coherence between the studio and its talent, led to a movie being yanked from theaters in just a few weeks. The lesson is clear. When corporate strategy, talent, and messaging collide in chaos, the results can be catastrophic, and no amount of PR spin can undo the damage.